People might look at this building and think, oh, it's completely modern and contemporary, I've never seen anything like it. But actually the building methodology is as old as the megalithic architects, builders. My name is Amin Taha. I am chairman of Groupwork, a firm of architects. We're in 15 Clerkenwell Close. It's a mixed-use building that has office space in it and residential. This building's in many ways differentiated from others by the stone exoskeleton. The whole building is held up by stone alone, but at the same time it's going to be the external finish. What's it going to look like? What's the actual appearance of it? As we were visiting the quarries to decide what tone of limestone we might choose, the quarry master had erected a column for us as a sample of what this might look like. Next to that was what's called the master block that's extracted from the quarry. It had fossils, ammonite shells, fossilized coral all over the surface. That is the expression not only of the material itself, but also the process, the skill of the quarry master and the stonemason expressed in the material and therefore the architecture. The advantages of an exoskeleton are no internal structure. That flexibility at the moment is a series of moving walls and doors. Those doors can slide across and subdivide a larger room into smaller ones, which essentially means that whatever you lay out internally for today can be removed tomorrow.
I think one of the beauties of the apartments as a whole is the scale of the reception space. The way the sound works, the relationship to the outside. You can stand on like a balcony and have a drink of a summer's evening.
Every modern building in the UK, and it has a flat roof, needs what's called a biodiverse roof today. You plant some grasses, some wildflowers, you might place some logs, etc., in the hope of attracting some sort of insects. There are 2 beehives up there as well as bird boxes. We didn't expect it to flourish so vigorously. It meant a lot to us to be able to investigate these ideas and see them through, to prove these things do work. And we'll call them innovations. Rediscovery of how to build simpler, quicker, cheaper, greener. You can put a 30-story equivalent of this building up and be carbon negative. The construction industry, if we could do it overnight, could go from a carbon emitter to a carbon absorber.
In a way, you may not feel like you're in a university building at all, that you're in a structure that kind of is asking you, well, what do you want to do here? My name is Gerard Carty, I'm a Director of Grafton Architects, and we're sitting in the townhouse at Kingston University, which is a building we realised as a result of an RIBA competition in 2013. The building is surrounded on 3 sides by loggias, and that is an urban experience which connects the university back to the town. The university aspired to reveal the activities of the interior of the building to the wider public. I really love being in the foyer because you watch the buses going up and down, you see people on buses looking in, and they probably say to us, oh, well, what goes on in there now? I must come back and have a look sometime.
For me, the thing that makes Townhouse really special is a combination of things. I suppose it's the light, it's the space, it's the views out from the building. It's quite soft, I think, actually, for a building that is predominantly concrete. It really lends itself to encounters between student to student, staff to student, and that's really important to us. That is the feel we were hoping to create with the building.
The ceiling has these specially made acoustic baffles which absorb sound. The wall panelling itself is kind of striated. In this building, you have 2 different aspects, a library and a dance faculty in the one space. From an acoustic point of view, you have to keep them apart, but from an ideological and a cultural point of view, you want to connect them. So that was the challenge of this project. We've designed the surrounds of the staircase so that they're overlooked, so people can actually work there by standing at the edges overlooking the staircase, because there's something really phenomenal about people watching. The building is a concrete building, it's a concrete frame. We have a thermally active system which allows the building to be cooled through that concrete. So not only is the concrete structural, but it's also environmental.
For me, the one word that epitomises this building is open. It's very important to our students that they feel that this building is here for them and they can move into it and occupy it and use it the way that they want to.
The name Townhouse contains 2 aspects. It contains town, which has a civic dimension, and it contains house, which sends a sense of belonging, a sense of home. It's open and it is porous. It's a democratic space.
We created a place that has a real sense of community and where the residents can feel they belong to. I'm Kaori Osugi, a director at Stanton Williams. We are the architect for the key worker housing at Eddington, northwest Cambridge. The project consists of 10 buildings containing 264 apartment buildings. The focus was on creating sort of spaces between the buildings rather than the buildings. We created a network of interconnecting courtyards. The sequence of spaces are varied in character and size, responding to the social functions, starting from the public urban space of Market Square through to the much more community-focused landscape court. So the buildings are arranged to frame these spaces. The positioning and the kind of undercuts that we introduced are intended to create moments of intimacy and sense of discovery. This project is a key worker housing for the University of Cambridge's staff and researchers.
Eddington is a mixed-use development. We have accommodation, housing, retail, community centre, school, hotel. The university set out to establish and develop an extension to the city of Cambridge, which gives an opportunity for all staff and students to live and come and join and be part of the success story of the University of Cambridge.
The development is one of the largest stormwater recycling schemes within the world. All water on the roof are stored and collected and then carried through into the attenuation pond within the communal landscape court. To achieve the high demands for the daylight meant that the buildings become quite far apart and the building form quite simple. One of the challenges was really for us was to create a kind of intimacy and sense of place.
Eddington overall is a fabulous concept. I'm always bowled over by the fact the university's undertaken this project. The units are well spaced, well thought out, love the design, love the feel of it. It's actually quite a bit of a luxury to come here every day.
When I visited a few months ago during the summer, I saw that people are actually inhabiting these spaces. There's a picnic happening in the landscape court, the children's toys on the ground. There must have been a sense of security there and people were inhabiting the spaces. That was the main focus for this project, but also that's what it gives this project a meaning.
Breathe. Breathe till your lungs are sea-smothered, salt-puckered and curious. Breathe in our city's defiant iron giant, the siren's cry, a cold water triumph. Breathe between downs and sea we flourish. Hold fast to nature's grit and courage. Now with that breath sing. Sing to the trees and they'll sing back. Sing your weathered sea shanties and we promise she the sea will sing right back. And breathe. Breathe to retreat. Breathe to meet yourself again. Breathe to greet this wild-sided city till it sings under your skin and breathe.
I found it an enormous privilege being trusted to imagine a building in such a beautiful setting.
The building is intentionally a very atmospheric visitor experience. I'm Rowan Seaford. I'm an Associate Director at Carmody Grawk.
I'm Andy Grawk, of Carmody Grawk Architects, and we are the architects for the Windermere Jetty Museum. The museum is seen and approached from all sides, so you can arrive by boat to one of the jetties, or you can arrive by foot or by car from land. The centrepiece of the wooden wet dock is surrounded by a cluster of copper-clad buildings.
We spent a year up here to understand the seasons and how different materials weather in the Lake District environment. Over time, the building will develop its inevitable patina of oxidisation in order to give the building quite a timeless quality.
The brief for this building was to create a world-class building in which to house the internationally significant boat collection. It needed to be a building that could accommodate large-scale boats, that was exciting for the public to want to visit, but also importantly, because it sat within one of our great national parks, the Lake District National Park, had to enhance the landscape it was within.
Sustainability has been really central to the concept of the building. We have systems such as the lake source heat pump that heats the whole museum, underpinning the energy strategy. We've selected wherever possible local materials so that the travel from source to site is as short as possible.
The building has a zero waste strategy, so actually all of the domestic wastewater is treated on site and it's filtered through the landscape and reed beds so that it can then be discharged back into the lake as clean water.
The site is just amazing. It reflects boat building, it reflects restoration, it reflects conservation.
Some of the success of what the team has achieved here is a building that is simultaneously foreground and background. Foreground's a visitor experience. It's a building, it's here. And yet it's the background, it's the backdrop to a beautiful landscape setting and immersing yourself in a fantastic collection.
When you enter this space, it feels very other and hopefully uplifting. I don't think as architects we can hope for anything more than that, really. My name is Julia Barfield. I'm one of the co-founders of Marks Barfield Architects, and we are the architects of the Cambridge Central Mosque. We hadn't designed a mosque before, so of course we did a lot of research to find out about mosque design throughout the world, and what we discovered was that historically and globally, mosques generally took on the character of the place that they were in and the time they were in. So what should a British mosque of the 20th century be like? David, my partner, was the one who came up with this idea of the glade of trees and the garden of paradise. Trees in this glade of trees became these structural trees. This is an entirely timber structural building. Timber is beautiful, it's very sustainable, but also it's got that connection with nature, which is in Islam very important. That's also one of the kind of features of this place, is that you naturally somehow look up, which seems appropriate for a sacred space.
It's a space that's used by the whole community, not just the Muslim community. The idea is that the mosque is not just a place for worship. It's so lovely to see. There's that sense of pride and ownership from not just Muslims in Cambridge, but also the wider community too. You're sort of met with this immediate calm and sense of peace, and it's something that visitors get to experience once or twice if they visit, but something I get to experience every day, so it's just phenomenal.
We've kept the energy usage down as much as possible, as well as trying to address embodied carbon in the choice of materials. All the rainwater is captured. It's used to flush the toilets and also to help water the garden. In a sense, we were trying to kind of combine the English sacred architecture with Islamic traditions.
We wanted to construct something that was a symbol of hope, that this difference is not just about problems of integration, but is about the inherent interest of bringing together different narratives, different civilizations, different ethnicities, languages, cultural communities. It's a kind of celebration of the very central contribution that Islam brings to the rainbow diversity that is what makes modern Britain so fascinating.
Muslim Islamic culture, it has been part of British culture for so long, and I hope this building reaffirms that. It brings the two together.
I want a smarter future. A future where I get to enjoy nature the same way previous generations got to.
I want a future where connectivity and autonomy are about more than technology.
They're about communities.
And freedom.
Freedom to travel
independently. A future where buildings are designed for all of us.
Where hospitals can be built in factories.
And open faster.
Where towns are designed to be less lonely.
Places that make me feel proud. That make me feel I belong.
Where buildings can be unbuilt,
rebuilt and reused.
The decisions we make today become our future. At WSP, there are 55,000 of us changemakers, using our insights to imagine the world and our future as it could be.
Together,
we are planning,
advising, designing for a fairer,
smarter future.
We are
Tim,
Nonku,
Han, Teresa,
Naveed. We are
WSP.
When we proposed it to English Heritage, I never thought they'd accept. But sometimes the crazy ideas are actually the best ideas. My name's William Matthews, and along with Laurent Ney and Mathieu Mallier from Ney & Partners, we are the engineers and the designers of the Tintagel Castle footbridge. The footbridge reconnects the two sides of the medieval castle built in the 12th century by Richard Earl of Cornwall. The mainland ward and the island ward were connected by an isthmus of rock, which has since eroded away, and the bridge recreates that link between the two sides. One of the key drivers behind the project, indeed its very raison d'etre, was to improve accessibility to the site.
One of the major problems at Tintagel is this incredibly rocky landscape. We wanted to be able to get lots of people here who couldn't get here before. Because there were so many steps up to the island, a lot of people couldn't because they had bad knees, they used wheelchairs, whatever it was.
Now we have essentially step-free access right from the car park all the way through onto the site. And it was so satisfying on the opening day to see literally a queue of wheelchair users from the local village queue up to be the first person to cross the bridge and onto the island, something that they might not have done for many, many years.
In my mind, this was a textbook example of how you should design a major piece of engineering in a really sensitive heritage or archaeological site. You could look at all sorts of designs for bridges that would actually have to go through the archaeology on the surface of the island. The elegance of this solution was that it's anchored into the rock on either side below the sensitive archaeology. Very, very clever.
The materials we used were important not just structurally, but also how it tie into its landscape, its situation. For the bridge deck, we've used Delabore slate, which is mined from the quarry just 2 miles away. 40,000 hand-split and hand-cut slates have all been laid on edge, like after 8 mints. And it gives that wonderful sound as you walk across, and that unique experience, that you feel under your foot.
When you step out onto the bridge, it's really amazing because you hear all the clitter-clatter of the slate. It's such a clever design, and the views are absolutely astonishing. It's wonderful.
One word that sort of encapsulates the building, it's not a very architectural word, but for me it's fun. And it's the kind of project that you can see so easily in the faces of users, that the fun and the enjoyment they're getting from the project. And that's extremely gratifying.
Breathe. Breathe till your lungs are sea-smothered, salt-puckered and curious. Breathe in our city's defiant iron giant, the siren's cry, a cold water triumph. Breathe between downs and sea we flourish. Hold fast to nature's grit and courage. Now with that breath sing. Sing to the trees and they'll sing back. Sing your weathered sea shanties and we promise she the sea will sing right back. And breathe. Breathe to retreat. Breathe to meet yourself again. Breathe to greet this wild-sided city till it sings under your skin and breathe.